So let's say a Hottie. Well, you didn't understand a word that we were saying there. You must by now understand Afrikaans completely.
Not completely, but I can pick up little things for sure. Inflections.
Yes. Well, you know the word lekker.
I do know the word lekker. I used it last year, I think, as soon as I walked out on stage in Cape Town.
You did.
Yeah.
You did. So a big welcome to Kip Moore, and I think, let's just say, the king of Cape Town, the prince of Pretoria, the person that could put country music back on the map in South Africa, and I think just everybody's sweetheart if I look at all the messages that we're getting. And it's unbelievable what happened with you here in South Africa, Kip. So I'm not going to do the whole. This is going to be a completely different interview. We've done all the music stuff with you, and we've done that interview before where we asked you where you're from and what's the music and where does the music come from. Today we want to find out what makes Kip tick. What is it that makes you the person that you are? I got to spend some time, luckily, with him in the car on the way to the Kruger Park, and we listened to the new album, which I think is going to be absolutely incredible. And I just cannot see for the life of me waiting until February for that to come out. So I'm sure somewhere along the line, one of the perks of my job will be that I get to listen to it before anybody else.
Name dropping.
Very true. Very true.
So yeah, tell us about your trip to South Africa. You went to Kruger. You spent some time there. Saw some animals. What was it like?
We did. We finally saw some real animals out there, Wimpy. It was last year. I give him a hard time. We went somewhere else last year. We had an amazing time there too, but it was. I'll be honest. The part that was the most special for me was the bonfire setup right on the river, and how the animals would come right there in front of you, and you're just sitting there having a fire, hanging out with your buddies, and there's a full bull elephant that's 40, 50 feet from you right there. That was a pretty powerful experience for sure. And the show last Saturday was just as special or more special than the last time I was here. It felt like the stadium it felt like we knew what to expect, and then they almost knew what to expect, which made them as fired up as we were. So they just felt like there was a little different electricity in the audience this past year, even though, this past weekend as opposed to last year, and the last year was special. So I can't imagine what it's going to be like here Saturday night.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. A lot of people asked me, because they knew I spent some time with you last week in Joburg and at the Kruger, and they said to me, "What's he like, and what does he do?" And I said, it's a completely different. You look like a different person this year that we saw, as opposed to last year. Last year, you got here, and I think you didn't know quite what to expect from the South Africans. And this year, it was just like you commanded the whole stage, and you just commanded everything wherever you go. And it's just, you are such a pleasure to be around. And it's from my side, I can just say what a nice guy, and I think that translates on the stage, and people pick up on that. So I want to compliment you on that, and I want to say I think the South Africans are taking onto you in a big way, and I think that's big. That's the reason.
I appreciate that, and I'm taking on to them. We talked about it. I mean, even being in the hotels, and I've kind of always been that way. That part is nothing new for me. I like to joke with the people that work at the places that we're staying, and catering and all those things, and I like to make friends in the building, and by the time I leave, sometimes I've got numbers of different people that were working at the venue, and then we go have dinner together, and I've kind of always navigated that way, but there's such a gregarious nature to the smile of the Afrikaans here, and there's like this, they light up in a different kind of way when you're hanging out and talking to them, and you feel, I can sense what somebody's spirit is a lot quicker here than I can in a lot of places, which I think that's been one of the special traits to me.
There's a special connection with you and South Africans, and we're going to touch on that just now. But there's a connection between yourself and especially Afrikaans people. So just a little story for you, the behind the scenes, so to say, from last week there in Pretoria. So I was coming around and I was moving and I was on my way to the stage area, and it was just as the sound checks was about to begin and everybody was running around and it's chaos. And I came around the corner and I was on my way up to the stage and I saw Kip standing there having a decent conversation for probably about 15 minutes with one of the security guards at the back. And he was like, they can wait for me. I'm busy with, this is an important conversation. And he had that 15-minute conversation with the security guy, and everybody was waiting and just, it's okay, don't worry about it. He's going to finish up with his conversation. So I think that's what makes it, that's what South Africans what make them attracted to you, is the fact that you will spend that 10 minutes with a security guy that you're probably never going to see again.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the beauty of people ask me why I love to surf so much. And there's so many elements to the answer of that question. But one of the main reasons that I love it so much is you will find yourself, whether it's 6 o'clock in the morning and you're sitting out on this cliff waiting for the sets to come in and you're just kind of seeing what the pulse is in the ocean. And you'll be standing with someone having a cup of coffee with you and that you've never met, maybe from another part of the world, and you'll end up in a conversation usually that can go pretty deep. And it might be an hour pass by where you've been talking about things that are not surface level and you've just been waiting on sets to start. That's the beauty in surfing to me, is you get past this, and especially nowadays, you know, none of us seem connected. We're all looking at our phone or looking around or what's better over here, and very few people are really present. And so I think that's one of the reasons I love to surf so much, is you end up having those connection moments. So I feel like even though we're checked out the way we are nowadays, people are still desiring that community to have with people, to be seen, you know. So yeah, you know, it might have been the conversation I was even having that security guard. The funny part about that is 5 minutes into it, I think he still didn't know who I was. I was just talking with him and asking about where he's from, and he's kind of, you know, we're just having a conversation. He finally goes, you know, who are you, brother? You know, and I said, well, I'm the guy on that picture right there. Then he looked up and was like, oh my gosh, like, no, the guys never stopped to talk to me. So I thought you were a stagehand or something. I said, no, man, that's me. Anyways.
Awesome. All right, so Kip's prepared a few songs for us, and you're in for a treat. And I know there are people, I've got people on the WhatsApp line and on the Telegram lines and on Facebook telling me, listen, we're taking the long way to work today and we don't mind the traffic. We got to sit in it, and it's going to be actually pretty good if we get stuck. If somebody gets stuck on the highway or whatever.
Yeah. Phone your boss, you're going to be late.
Phone your boss, you're going to be late this morning. It's fine, it's all good. We got Kip Moore in the house, and he's... what are you going to do for us first up, Kip?
I'm going to do this song, Flowers in December.
Oh, it's new. It's
a brand new, and it's going to be out very soon.
In December.
Very, very soon.
Yes, can't wait.
Yeah, so we'll do it right now. Well, it's already late into the evening, and it's been hours since the sun went down. You told me that you were leaving, and maybe you'd see me around. So I'll see you around. It's never this cold in September. Still I wander out into the night. That old man says, son, ain't it a pity? Almost in his jacket, says, hey, you got a light. For a moment I was lost on the side of the road, and so close. In a way, some things get harder to remember. Trees will lose their leaves in November. Would you even tell me if you ever think about the flowers in December? Well, I found me a cab with all my loose change. Saw a picture sitting in the dash. The sky was blue, I bet that it was summer. Then a cold chill hit me just like that. Hit me just like that. In a way, some things get harder to remember. Trees will lose their leaves in November. Would you even tell me if you ever think about the flowers in December? I've never really lived to see the sunrise and the stars fading in the sky. There's a peace, I feel it all around me. Now I know it's time to say goodbye. Time to say goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Kip, there's a lot of messages coming in. Everybody says fantastic, great new song. And they're all saying, please let Wimpy have it before anybody else. And let it be in December. So it's going to be in December, don't worry. There's a lot of new songs on the new album. Just going to quickly go to music and then we're going to come back to you again. But there's 22 songs on the album.
Yes, there are.
22 songs on the new album. So that's a lot of songs for one album.
The most I've ever had is 13.
13, so we're up to 22.
Yeah.
So is there something happening in your career that you are just the music is just bubbling out of you?
Yeah, I mean, I've been I've always, my cathartic process every single morning that I wake up, I write. Every single morning I do it. It's a muscle that I continue to train, and you go through these waves of where you're really, really sharp, and then you're just a pro. You know how to do it, and then you're back to being like super tuned in to whatever it is that you've unpacked and you're feeling. So I'm not always, I know how to write. I could sit in this room, and if you said, write me a song called The Red Chair that Miles is sitting in, I could write you a song, and it'd be catchy, it'd be this and that, but just because I know how to do it. But every now and then you hit these ebbs and flows where, I hit a 3 or 4 month period last year where I just felt so tuned in to whatever it was that I was hearing and feeling in my head, my heart, all those things kind of coincided and they gel together, and then you're on to something. So, you go through spurts like anything else. You got a hot hand for a minute, and you kind of have to know when that's happening, when you're super locked in.
So you went through that period and then wrote 22 songs.
Well, I mean, I wrote probably over 100 songs to get to 22.
Amazing.
I've always looked at it like write 10 to get to one great one. So I've probably got 1,200 to 1,300 songs in my catalog that people have never heard.
Amazing. You must send that catalog, send it on to me in case anything happens. Then we can one day look at it. With AI now, I think long after we all gone, there's still going to be new Kip Moore releases.
Maybe, who knows?
So, Kip, tell me. Let's forget about the music for a minute. You were a sportsman, quite the sportsman. You had a scholarship.
I did. I played basketball initially. That was my whole life. Like that's all I ever wanted to do was basketball. And then I, realized that I wasn't 6'5". At some point, when I got to college, I realized that all of a sudden the point guards, that were once, anywhere from 5'8" to 6 foot that were guarding me in high school were now 6'5" and just as quick as I was. So you had to work even harder to get your shot off for sure. But I still loved it. I still, I started my freshman year, 15 games I think that season. And basketball is really tough down in like the states, in the southern states. And then I left. Golf was something that kind of was something I could do. It wasn't necessarily something that I loved, but I could do it well. And I switched, and then I got a scholarship down south to play golf for 3 years.
I just want to tell you, Kip gave me a golf lesson. When was it? On Tuesday night.
The other night, yeah.
And I played against with Darius Rucker yesterday.
Did it help?
And I just want to say it helped absolutely nothing. Darius owned my ass on the golf course like you cannot believe. He thrashed me. And I looked at him and I said, I'm sending Kip for you.
Yeah. please do. I'll take every dime in his pocket.
So your dad was a
golf pro. My granddad was a golf pro,
Okay.
and my great granddad was. But I didn't start playing until I was 17. He never tried to get me to play. My brother was an All-American at golf, so I kind of let him have that. And so I just focused on basketball and baseball. And then it was later in life that I picked up a golf club and was like, oh, okay, wait a minute, I can do this, So, and I think that was kind of what actually kind of turned me on to doing it. My dad was a really hard-nosed guy, and like to get any affirmation from him was a big deal. And when he saw me swing a golf club at, when I quit baseball my junior year, going into my senior year, he saw me hitting, and that's when he came up and was like, "Oh, I had no idea you had a swing like this," And so then it was kind of like, "Oh, maybe I'll try this," and I got fairly good at it.
Yeah, it's pretty annoying because he never plays golf.
No,
walks
just picks
onto a
up
golf course. Darius Rucker says he never plays. When he walks onto the golf course, shoots 72, and you just get upset with him. So apart from the golf and the sport and everything else around it, tell me about your family.
5 brothers and sisters, 2 older brothers, 3 younger sisters. They're incredible. They're mostly down south in the southern states. Grew up really tight. We all started working maintenance crew on the golf course that my dad worked at. I think the number was 14, so we were probably, child labor and didn't know it, But it was like 14 years old. We had to sit there working full time, after school, and then the summertime it was full time, So we were always close, but I feel like that was like what really bonded us. We lived in the same room together up until I left home at 18. My sister's amazing. We all, I'll get to see him this coming Thanksgiving. My dad's no longer around. My mom was an amazing piano teacher. She was an artist herself. She wanted to play for Willie Nelson. That was like her dream. And I said, well, Mom, you don't drink or smoke. I don't know if that's a good idea that you go play for Willie Nelson, But she was so cool. Like, she would play hymns at church as she was the organ player in the church. And then you'd come home after school and she'd have my brother's rock and roll Guns N' Roses like music sheet book. And she'd be playing November Rain and Welcome to the Jungle and stuff on the piano. It was trippy to kind of sit around and watch that, as a kid. But she's amazing.
Amazing. Okay, we're going to let you do another one for us, and then we're going to go to the listeners. I'm going to ask the listeners if there's anything you want to know that is acceptable for, family radio, family-orientated radio. Then now is the time for you to send us your questions. And we're going to ask Kip about that, and then we're going to chat about CTC. And we're going to chat a bit more about what you do when you're at home and you're not on tour and you just being Kip.
Cool.
I heard an interesting story from your manager, which I'm going to just let you think about it. He said to me, so he went to Kip's house one day in Charleston, and you guys went, you had lunch or something, and then you said, oh, I just realized I don't have 4 knives and forks. It's only one.
Yeah, that's true.
What a
That's true.
bachelor
That's
life.
true. You know, his first weekend on the job, I actually got onto my tour bus with a garbage bag. I had a garbage bag over my shoulder with my clothes in it, and he had never met me at that point. And so when I walked up, he was like, "This can't be the guy right here with a garbage bag, you know, with his clothes in it." But you know, yeah. Anyways, that's true. I only had 1 fork and 1 knife at one point in the house. So
We're going to chat about that. We're going to, what are you doing up next for us?
I can do. I'll do Plead the Fifth acoustic. I never do Plead the
Yeah.
Fifth acoustic.
Yes.
There you go. So here's a first for you on World Radio.
Go ahead and ask anything you want. Do I miss you? I can't say I don't. Put me on trial, but I won't tell. If I want you, and I always will. Writing on the Bible, the other on the bottle. Have I ever mixed your memory with Tennessee? Have I ever dialed you up but never let it ring? Do I wonder where you are with every sip getting on new? You might be with, drown myself in 90 proof. What else? I plead the fifth. If you showed up at my door tonight, would I let you in without a fight? If a little kiss led to the bed, would we wake up with no regrets? Any minute, but I won't lie. Probably love you till the day I die. Have I ever mixed your memory with Tennessee? Have I ever dialed you up but never let it ring? Do I wonder where you are with every sip getting on new? You might be with, drown myself in 90 proof. What else? I plead the fifth. Have I ever mixed your memory with Tennessee? Have I ever dialed you up but never let it ring? My darling, do I wonder where you are with every sip getting on new? You might be with, drown myself in 90 proof. What else? I plead the fifth.
So, Kip, tell me about. It's a normal day for you. You wake up, you're in Charleston, you off, you haven't got shows to go to, or you're on a sort of a 2-week break. So you wake up at what time?
Well, if I've got a 2-week break, I'm going to go down to Central America and go surfing. If I've got 2 weeks off. If I've got 7 days off, then yeah, I'll probably stay put in Charleston. If there's Sometimes you get a little wave close to my house, and there's a place called the Washout where I'll go surf early morning if there's a wave. If there's not, I wake up and I take my time because my whole life feels like it's always in a rush. So I'm all about coffee. I love coffee so much. So, I mean, I even like positioned my deck when I built it to look over the marsh to where I was like, where do I want to have coffee? And like, I got to build this thing the right way. But, you know, I read a lot. I wake up and I read and I write. So it kind of depends on what mode I'm in that morning. I might start at 7 a.m. and not get done with that portion of my morning until noon, depending on if I'm in a groove writing. I usually go train once a day. I'll go work out for a good hour and a half. But there's also a rock climbing gym close to my house. Sometimes I go do that. But I really just take it easy. I got a bicycle. I'll kind of pedal around. I got all these ocean roads. There's all the marsh. And I'll go get coffee different places, go get lunch and food different places. But I take it pretty easy when I'm in Charleston.
Someone was asking you, are you a car guy? Do you have a specific type of car or bike?
A truck.
You're a truck guy.
Oh, okay. I've got a '89 Ford F-150, just like my dad had down in Folly. And then when I'm in Nashville, I've just got a regular old 4-wheel drive Chevy.
Didn't expect anything else.
No.
Yeah.
What else did you expect?
No, nothing pretentious.
And food. You are probably the guy that I've met in my life that has the most eggs.
You're probably right there, Wimpy.
I don't know how many baby chickens you kill every single year.
I do go through some. That is for sure.
How many is it? How many eggs per day?
It depends. When I'm a little limited like I am here, not many. But when I'm back in the States and I have like, my cooking area, or I can like meal prep for the bus, it's probably easily 12 a day. But mainly, I mainly take out the yolk for the most part.
Okay, so what's your ideal preparation for an egg? Is it a scramble? Is it a bake? Is it
I love
boiled?
a good scramble.
Yeah.
Love a good scramble with a little bit of chili oil, a little bit of red pepper.
Chili oil.
Yeah.
Chili oil. Yeah.
Okay.
It's some Tabasco. Yeah. Some black beans. Yeah. That's my jam.
Awesome. And you eat like 6 times a day?
Yeah. Normally when I'm back home. Yeah, for sure.
So with all the sport and everything, you also now turned into a bit of a bodybuilder, exercise fundu. Tell us about your exercise routine. How does that go?
Well, I mean, I've been training pretty hard since college. I mean, but I think I hit a different gear around 32, 33 is when I hit like a different gear of wanting to take it to another level. But I think the main part for me is it's when I do get done doing this for the year, I'll tour for like 10 months straight, and then I'll go surf for 2 and go rock climb for a little bit and go snowboard and these things. And I like that I'll train so hard through the year that when I get back in the water, it doesn't take me long to be right back in paddling shape because I've been already training throughout the year. Same thing with rock climbing. It just takes me a few days, and then I've got all that strength back that was just kind of like muscle memory. And there's no ailments, when I'll go with buddies that might not be doing that through the year, and then we'll go, whether it's snowboarding or whatever, and it's like they got to pull the hamstring first time down the run, So I love doing that stuff so much. I know that could happen to me now that I've put that out in the universe, but I love doing that stuff so much that I want to enjoy it when I'm there because I don't have long, so I try to keep my body ready for that.
The guilty pleasure that you have that nobody knows.
Easily. First off, I'm a glazed donut fanatic and a cheeseburger and fries fanatic. So when I'm back in Nashville, whenever we get back in town on Sunday, I go to Jack Brown's, which is my favorite burger joint in the world, and I get a cheeseburger, fries, and the Oreo donut, and I'm in a happy place at that moment.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, we are with Keep Moore in studio here, and it's a bit of a surreal experience for us. I mean, we've been, you don't know, well, you know this by now, but a couple of years ago, we started playing Heart's Desire, and we started playing, then we went on a whole crusade, and and
how did you find Heart's Desire?
So that was... it's an interesting story. A fellow South African musician, John Boucher, you met him last year. He sent me a link, and I remember the day clearly because they say things that happen in your life that has an impact on you, you remember. I read an interesting book the other day. You forget 95% of your life. 95% of your life you don't remember because you move on. So the special memories you take and you store that in your brain. So I remember that clearly because I was sitting on the toilet. And it's my morning routine. It's what I do. Okay. So I got the link from John, and I looked at it, and it was a song. And we would normally, if I pick up a nice song or whatever, I would send it to him. Here's a good song, he'll send it to me. So I remember, and I saw it, and I thought I'm going to listen to it later because I want to read the newspaper quickly. And I was scrolling through it. There was nothing in the news that morning, and I started playing the song. And the minute that first, and you do it so well on the concert, at Loftus, that first notes intrigue you because it sort of teases. Exactly that. So I heard that, and I was hooked. And I went and I said, no, I've got to listen to this on a proper system. So I went and I switched it on. I saw it was a YouTube link. And I searched it and I played it through my system. And I listened to it and I thought, what is this and why haven't I heard this before? And it just absolutely rocked my world. And I thought, let me just go and search this guy. So I went and I searched all your songs. And I fell in love with songs like Guitar Man. It's my favorite song.
You fell in love with the songs that I always wished throughout my career were the ones that were released. You fell in love with the songs that my fans, you fell in love with the songs that were really who I was as an artist, and you fell in love with the songs that the fans loved the most.
Yes.
It was like I've always been thankful for Something About a Truck. I'll always be thankful for that song, and I love playing that song. And so I'm so thankful to my promo team for helping me get that song out in the world because that got everybody in the door. But then once they got in the door, it was Crazy One More Time. It was Heart's Desire. It was Guitar Man. Those are the songs that hooked their teeth into the fans. And then we had an actual fan base. So finished. I just love how you like the real songs.
Love it. So then I went on this whole rampage of I've got to know more. I've got to find out more about this guy, and I really need to listen to everything that he has. So
he had a bit of a crush.
And then I went and I delved into the catalog that other people probably wouldn't. But I picked up on a lot of songs. There's a song that you never do that we used to play on air, My Kind. Don't know if you remember that. So that song became my theme for a while in my life because I always thought, this is a small radio station in Brackenfell that moves the world. And I always felt that that song resonates with me because My Kind, it's our listeners. It's My Kind.
Yeah.
And that I fell in love with that. But there's an interesting... last night we searched and we looked at on Spotify your top 5 songs, and number 4 on that list is a song that I don't think gets playlisted in the rest of the world, but it should be. But South Africans love that song. It's Hey Old Lover.
It's interesting because, and this is a story I've never told. This is a behind the scenes thing, and like I've said once again, like. I have such a affection for my promo staff, that I used to be with at Universal Records, but with that song and Heart's Desire for that matter, when Hey Old Lover, when I put that out, it was kind of a unanimous, like, oh man, this feels like a big hit, you know, and you know, head of the label loved it, head of promo loved it, and they were just like, I think this is going to be a single. And there was utters of, well, we've got concerns because no woman's going to be one called old. And I went, no, it's a term of endearment, like hey old, like OL, hey old lover, like hey past lover.
Yeah.
But it was like that little bit of concern put a kibosh in the whole thing to where the song never made it to American radio just off of that. So you've got those moments in your career where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go nuts. You know, Heart's Desire was another one where I always knew what Heart's Desire was. I felt like our whole band knew what it was. My team knew what it was. Once again, when we listened to that record down, that was kind of the unanimous favorite amongst the entire record label. Was like, you know, this song is. I'll never forget riding with a guy named Michael Bryan that ran the Nashville station. He was like, this is a no-brainer. Heart's Desire is not only a hit, but it's a mega, mega hit. Put it out. But there was just this concern because that song didn't feel like anything in the American radio format. So that scared them to where, well, this doesn't sound like anything else. And I was like, that's the exact reason that we should put it out. But it was like, it's just too this, it's too that. You know, I just don't think it's going to fit on American radio, country radio. So it never got to see what you eventually played it and it became, you know, and it's just such a crazy thing that all these years later, that song that I always knew was special finally has become special amongst. It's massive in Australia, it's massive in England, you know, it will be in Belfast soon, and it's huge over there. So it's just interesting to see these songs get life so many years later after you've written them.
Yeah. I think you know the story. We were sitting in a plane and we were heading towards Joburg, and Kip was sitting next to me, and he said, what do you think I should, what's your playlist look like? What songs are big in South Africa? And I said, Heart's Desire. And he said, really? We don't ever play that. And I said, you have to include that in your set list. That has to be, that's going to be your song. And the first show in Pretoria, we had 27,000 people at Pretoria. I think the first thing that happened was we were all in awe of all these people there.
Grateful.
And I remember reluctantly kept putting Heart's Desire on the playlist, and we sat there, and I was standing next to the stage. Every time I see a show, I'm standing next to the stage, and I'm like in the zone because I love it. You get the feel of the stage, and you get the sound of the monitors, and you're just into it. So I'm standing there watching him doing Heart's Desire for the first time, and I knew he didn't want to put it in the playlist because it was quite early in the playlist. And I listened to it, and the people just started singing every word back to him. And he went and he sat down on one of the monitors, and he turned around and he looked at me, and I was standing behind the stage, and I was just going,
yeah.
I told you. And there were people with the lighters were out, and the lights were out, and the cell phones, and it was absolutely crazy.
Well, you also told me about, like,
Yeah. Let's sort of do
told me
that
about
one.
Tennessee Boy,
Yeah.
like, and that was something I always loved that song, but we never played it because it didn't seem like a song that the American audience knew. So I just kind of took the back burner. Then you were telling me, oh yeah, Tennessee Boy's a hit. And I'm like, finally, we get to play this thing, you know? So that was such a blast to play that tune, you know? So
you know what made that song famous? So Lulu and I, you know, you've been to our house.
Yeah.
You've seen the whole thing is built around guitars and music. And at one stage we had a stage in the house. And then Lulu made me break it down when I said we should put cinema-style seats because it's turning into a theater. And then she said, no, first of all, it's our house, so it's supposed to be a lounge. But at that in that period, that was just before COVID or just after COVID or in COVID or something. So we used to do something we called the gin sessions. So we would go pour gin and tonic, sit at the bar. I would take the guitar and she would cover a song. Lily's a bit of a singer as well. So one of the songs that we did was exactly that song. So I think that's where it got famous.
Gotcha.
And then we started playing your version, of course.
Gotcha.
But yeah. Can you do that for us?
I mean, I can give you like a little. I can give you a little taste. I'll give you a little taste of it. Just trying to remember the whole thing here. Tennessee boy, gonna sip a little shine, Tennessee boy. Just off the lid like Granddad did, let the fiddle make a little mountain noise. All across the old red rocks, smoke slowly rolling on. Loving all the friends you got, and you just got one more. I'm trying to remember. Colorado girl, gonna get a little high, Colorado girl. Get a little herb out of God's green earth, spread a little joy all around the world. All across the old red rocks, smoke slowly rolling on. Loving all the friends you got, you just got one more. And who needs money? Few good friends are real good honey. Ooh, that's about all you need. And ooh, soak it up, whole lot of magic in a Dixie cup. Yeah, ooh, well if you ask me, that's about all you need. Just trying to remember in that key. Yeah.
That's the line.
Brilliant.
That's the line.
Brilliant. Okay, so we are supposed to say goodbye to you, and I can just tell you the WhatsApp line has exploded with people just saying goosebumps. There's a guy that says he's got a crush on you and he's not gay. So, is it okay? Can we have you for another half hour after 8 o'clock?
I came into this world like a fighter on the ropes, like a thumb stuck out on the wing in the shoulder of the rope. Some tumbleweed just rolling on, not sure where to blow. Live a twist, live a turn, I'm learning as I go. I'm learning as I go. I'm learning how to be. I'm learning how when I break it down, there's little that I need. Say sorry, man, when you need to keep a pocket full of hope. I'm still a gun, I've settled some, I'm learning as I go. Took a loose deal in a tight spot, came back to bite me bad. Had a feeling in my gut, but I still shook his hand. He ran with all my money, left me with the bag. Had to sell my truck, couldn't pay the note. I'm learning as I go. I'm learning as I go. I'm learning how to be. I'm learning how when I break it down, there's little that I need. Say sorry, man, when you need your head. Keep a pocket full of hope. I'm still a gun, I've settled some. I'm learning as I go. Oh. As I go, I'm learning as I go. I'm learning as I go. Well, I broke her heart on a Tuesday when I spoke the word goodbye. By Friday, I was empty as that 5th of July sky. When I saw her hold that other hand, it's like I saw a ghost. A little too slow on the trigger roll. I'm learning as I go. I'm learning as I go. I'm learning how to be. I'm learning how when I break it down, there's a little that I need. Say sorry, man, when you need to, and keep a pocket full of hope. I'm still a gun, I've settled some, I'm learning as I go. As I go, as I go, I'm learning as I go. I'm learning as I go. I'm learning as I go.
Okay, one of the messages that's coming in here, Kip, you're going to enjoy this one. So I told everyone at work I'm in the parking, busy with a Teams meeting in my car. Will be in the office shortly.
I think we are the team.
We are the teams. And then another one, Kip, don't you want to do a song with a local South African artist, a collab? Somebody saying you should be doing that.
Like doing a duet with somebody.
Yeah.
We've already been talking about it.
Yeah,
so
we've been talking about
like
it.
I'd love to if it makes sense. I've never been one of those that I'm not gonna do something just because people want me to, or the label wants me to, or you know, I remember turning down a very big look for the ACM Awards to do a duet with a very big pop artist at the time. You know, in hindsight, maybe I should have done it, but at the same time, my answer would probably be the same if I went back. It didn't make sense for me just to do a duet, just to be seen. So I turned it down, and then there was another artist that took it, and you know, their career's been amazing. So, you know, I've had a lot of things happen throughout my career that I've always said that fame and success are two different things. And sometimes those things coincide, and sometimes they're separate from each other. But all I ever cared about was being successful. But I know you probably running out of time. I've done some things in my career that I look back and I'm like, I can't believe that I actually did that at that particular time. Whether it was, you know, I can get back to it later. But you know, I can remember being offered to play the AFC halftime show with the big NFL championship game. And there was a reason I said no, that, you know, I know you need to do your thing right now. You can ask me later. But, you know, stuff like that. There's been big commercials where I, you know, didn't realize what I was even in for and walked off the set because it didn't feel right with, you know, I felt like I got tricked into something, and I ended up walking off and leaving all this money on the table and being like, I don't want it. I don't need it. So,
Yeah.
But there's a lot of work involved to know exactly who you are, to be able to be true to yourself, to be able to differentiate between what's good for me and my person and what's good for my career.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like I've always kind of understood. I remember getting a call early on from a manager being like, you know, there's a call from ABC and, you know, potentially wanting you to be The Bachelor, which is a huge show in the States. And this was probably 2015-ish, 2014.
It's pretty big.
In
And it was
Russia as
right
well.
when
They asked me to, but I was married. So.
And it was right when Wild Ones was coming out, you know, and I was just getting established as a musical artist. And number one, even if I wasn't doing music, I'd never be on the show. But two, I just kind of was like, are y'all crazy? You want me to go do a show right now when the music thing is happening? You want me to go do this show? And it was just a very easy no for me. But they were like, well, it's 10 million people watching tonight. And I was like, I don't give a...
Right.
I don't care. Like, that's not what this is about, you know? So I look at something like that, and even something, you know, that could have derailed everything. You know, you would have been seen as that thing instead of the music, you know? So I've always been conscious of that and trying to not ever worry about the carrot and the fame, but more of all I've ever cared about: selling tickets, selling records, you know, making music that mattered for fans. That was it, and that mattered to me.
We spoke about it earlier on in the week, and I think it's the recipe that you have is just quite simply go back and conquer, and go back again and conquer again, and by the third time you get to a place, you are a star, whether regardless whether they play or don't play your music on local radio, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I think there's a case to be made for streaming music where suddenly you don't have the big corporate radio stations that call the shots because we are going to play this or we're not playing that. Because now people can go onto YouTube and they can do their own thing and they can listen to whatever they want to.
They create their own station.
They create their own radio station. Now, I think in a way you've managed to do that and build a career out of very little airplay.
Yeah, I mean, you know, early on in my career, I got airplay, and I'll always be thankful for that. Like, you know, it's one of those things where Tom Petty said, Merle Haggard actually said it, I'm dreaming of one last hit record. Tom Petty's, talking about, we're all trying to make hit records for the radio, and it's like, radio is still so powerful, and there's something magical about riding down the road and hearing your song for the first time on a radio station. There's something really special about that, and it still is. There's still that feeling of even when I landed and I got in the car and my stuff was playing here in South Africa, there's something about the radio playing music that I discovered my favorite artists and favorite bands, and I think streaming's amazing, but there's a power in radio that sometimes I don't even know if radio knows they hold, where it's like there's just something special about hearing a song on the radio for the first time, not following what streaming's doing, but you're the leader in playing that and stepping out on a limb like you even did with Heart's Desire here. Like nobody ever even heard of me. And just because you love the music, you're a music guy, and that's what you hope people in radio are. And you loved it, so you're like, I'm going to play it. So they all got the chance to discover me through your radio station, not through, having to go search for it somewhere. It's like, that's how they discovered it. And then they started streaming it, and they're listening to your station. But there's that also that thing that you have done to where they're like, I might discover something new by listening to this station. Exactly. And it's not going to be the same exact playlist every single day. So with that, I just say kudos. That's super rad. But like Australia is one of those things where I haven't gotten a lot of radio play in Australia, but every time we go back, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And this last time it was full-fledged arenas, so it's pretty special. Yeah.
I want to, PJ, come here, my buddy. I want you must see, and you must record this. So tape that. So this is our Kipmore, this is our playlist. So this is all the Kipmore songs that we have on our playlist. And there. So you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 Kipmore songs playlisted on Block Radio.
Somebody told me that you guys spin Neon Blue as well.
Yes, we do. Yeah. I'm in that video.
Yeah,
that's right.
That may be the reason also.
That might be the reason, yes.
But what you have to understand about Block Radio being very different, being a community-based radio station, and for our local listeners, the connection to be able to listen to radio in your own home language, and then being introduced to an international artist, there is a level of trust. Yeah. That if Wimpy and if somebody at Block Radio recommends this artist, it comes from a place of trust. And I think that's also something that you have to realize is that,
and it's passion.
It's absolutely
it's passion because we love music so much. The whole thing. I mean, my entire house is built around my hi-fi.
I wish everybody in radio loved music like you do. I wish.
Yeah, it's crazy. So just to give you an idea, some of the songs that we have playlisted that I don't think anybody else does. So you were talking about Neon Blue. There it is. Some Things, Heart on Fire. Sometimes She Stays was big with us. Last Shots, Backseat, Side of Ball.
Well, Sometimes She Stays, one of those as well. Like, Sometimes She Stays was one that everybody at my team, they all thought that was a hit record.
Yes.
Everyone thought it was a hit record, but for whatever reason, it never got put out.
Amazing.
And it's just one of those things that, once again, I'm just like, you can't, you're not a part of those songs every day. Like, you know, when you know they're special, and you're like, I can't just churn that kind of song out. Like, those are special little pocket moments. And so you're hoping that that's when it gets ushered into the world of letting people trying to hear it, you know. But that song, it had to take on a life of its own, and it became big by itself. But imagine what it could have been. It's one of those things that always kind of sticks in your head, you know, if it would have got a chance the way Hey Pretty Girl did. Because I always felt like Sometimes She Stays was just as big or bigger than that song. You know, so...
But there's always an opportunity for somebody to hear your music for the first time, and I'm almost jealous of that, and go into your catalogue of music and go explore it. Now imagine being able to do that now for the first time, getting to know Kip Moore, and all that is waiting for you.
Well, it's even like finding out that Sometimes She Stays is a hit here. Now I might play it tonight, which I had no intention of playing that song. I love that song, but it's just not one that's in our set much. But yeah, I might do it tonight.
We love all those songs. It's Sometimes She Stays, the songs that tell stories, Guitar Man, Mickey's Bar, one of my personal favorites. What is your favorite song to play?
Is that the key of Mickey's right there? Or was it a half more up? Is it? I'll just do like a little touch of Mickey's for you. Same old scene, same old faces, dropping for drinks at Mickey's Bar. And that neon sign, it's just like a magnet for all the hopeful and lonely hearts. Bobby had a dream, playing for the Yankees, but too bad knees, he's a junkyard car. Sherry serving drinks, the 95 prom queen, and she says looks only get you so far. Lost in the haze, off in the corner, there sits Jane in a new used dress. She orders up a Sky Dry martini. Why she's alone is anyone's guess. Oh my, man, get a double. Sweet Jane shooting me a smile. Oh my heart's in trouble. Sweet Jane wants to stay a while. Little taste of Mickey's Bar.
In Wimpy's Bar.
Yeah. I just get all emotional when things like this happen because it's like the music touches you. I mean, there's nothing else. There's no other way to describe it, and it's amazing the emotions it brings out of people. And somewhere there's somebody sitting in his car now, and he's thinking, you know, I was that superstar in school, and maybe it didn't work out quite that way for me. But here's the message: it's not all about that. So that's the magic of music. And yeah, unfortunately, I'm not out of time. I can do this all day long. But we're going to leave some of it for you for CTC. So just to tell you that Saturday night, Golden Circle tickets are sold out. Business Lounge tickets are sold out. There's I think General Access is pretty close to sold out as well. So Cape Town, South Africa have this affair with you. They absolutely love you. They adore you. They cannot wait for the next album to come out. If there's a new, I get reminded, if there's a new Kip Moore song, and I don't know about it, people will send a message and they'll say, have you seen Kip released something new? And I'm like, yes, I'm on it, don't worry. Cape Town, South Africa just absolutely loves you, and I want to thank you for what you've done for country music in South Africa. You've put it on the map. You are the guy. There's no other country artist in the world that comes close to you in South Africa.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't even know what to say to that. I'll give you a little taste of this right quick, because you heard it in the car the other day. I'm your West Coast, baby, come and burn me down to the ground like California. That's it. I'm your West Coast, baby, come and burn me down to the ground like California. I'll be your sex on fire, you can take me high as the sky. I'm coming for you. I'm your West Coast, baby, come and burn me down to the ground like California. I'll be your sex on fire, you can take me high as the sky. I'm coming for you, coming for you. Ain't nobody else for miles around, no one gonna come put us out, yeah. Just burning to the deep of the night, smolder on my shoulder in the morning light. Little spark, little smoke, constant flames, just let it go. I'm your West Coast, baby, come and burn me down to the ground like California. I'll be your sex on fire, you can take me high as the sky. I'm coming for you, coming for you. Coming for you. I'm your sex on fire, take me high as the sky. Coming for you. Hear the whole ones. You'll hear the whole song soon.
I cannot wait. I know it's going to be my favorite on the album. So that's it from our side this morning with Kip. Thank you so much, Kip, for popping in. And let me just tell you, this was not my idea. This was not my idea. Kip was sitting around the fire the other night and he said to me, do you want me to come to Cape Town and be on your show? And I said, is the Pope a Catholic? So thank you so much for that, and thanks so much for making us part of your journey, and you are definitely part of our journey as well. And I'm busy with notes because there's somewhere in my story there's something that will inspire someone, because I also came from nothing, and it's just grace that got me to where I am today. And somewhere there's a story, and I'm busy just putting bullet points together because I want to write a book, and that book's going to be called Kip and I.
Yeah. Oh man, I have no idea what to say to that.
We're going to do it through like the whole way. Like we sat here one morning and we said, let's spam his social media. Let's get him to get to South Africa, and that's where it all started. Yeah, on this very show, and we started spamming your inbox on Instagram, and that's where it all started, and it's awesome. So thank you so much for popping in and just putting the cap on the feather, or the feather in the cap for CTC and everything that goes with it. I think on Saturday night you're going to see how much people actually like you in South Africa.
I cannot wait. I hear it's going to be packed to the gills, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah, we'll pick up on this again Saturday night.
Yeah, we will. That was Kip Moore, on Bok Radio. I hope you guys enjoyed that one, and I hope you enjoyed Country Thursday. This is definitely going to set the bar for Country Thursday going forward, Mariessa.
Yeah, I don't know what we're going to do next week.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I also don't know what you got to do because I'm not going to be here. So, yeah, that's it. Kip Moore in the house this morning. That was absolutely fantastic. We'll do it all again on Saturday night. Don't forget, you can still get your tickets at iTickets or ctcfest.net. grab your tickets there, whatever is left of it. There's no more Golden Circle tickets. There's no more general access tickets. There are no more business lounge tickets or suite tickets. They're all gone, but you can still get tickets for the stands. Also, remember, it's also on Sunday. And even if the rain comes, Marisa, we don't care about that.
Luister, die Kaap, ons weet mos nou, die Kaap is 4 seisoene in een dag. Vrydag gaan die wind nog sterk waai. En ek is seker daarvan, as jy 'n bietjie in die reën moet staan, dis net nog 'n memory.
Ja, dis net nog 'n memory. Ek het gestaan, net so vir die interessante daarvan, ek het gestaan binne in die reën in Johannesburg by die FNB stadion. Besig om vir Bruce Springsteen
Nou sien, hierdie is dieselfde geleentheid. So, reën is net 'n bietjie water, ons het almal dit nodig, en kom ons kyk verby dit, en ek glo, dit gaan nie so erg wees soos wat ons almal vrees nie. As daar enige reëlings moet wees vir sambrele of dinge, ons sal dit môre deurgee. Vir vandag sien ons net uit na die naweek, maak jy net seker jy het gemaklike skoene aan, wat jy gaan wil dans, en maak jy net seker jy het mense rondom jou wat saam met jou die geleentheid kan geniet en gaan gebruik. Hier's mense wat vra of as jy onderhoud gaan doen op 'n pot gooi. Ek dink ons gaan beslis vir Jean vra om vir ons iets bymekaar te sit. Onthou nou net, wanneer jy Saterdag aand vir Kep Moor kyk, doen dit soos wat jy vanoggend gedoen het. Luister met 'n oop gemoed en 'n oop hart en sit daai foon weg. Jy wil dit eers te sien self.
Ja, daar's hy.
Bok Radio op 98.9 FM en aanlyn by bokradio.co.za.